Hey everybody, this video brings us back out to Gotha, Florida. I love the name of this town, Gotha. Gotha, Florida, here in beautiful, sunny Florida. We're here at the Woodlawn Cemetery. I've actually brought you guys out here before to take a look at something that sits all the way on the other side of the cemetery. We took a look at the really cool labyrinth and even cooler gigantic mosaic that sits behind the labyrinth. If you guys have not seen that video, definitely check it out. It was pretty cool. Came to see the labyrinth, was blown away by the mosaic. It's this big like depiction of like the life of Jesus, all done in like little tiles. It's really cool. It's really awesome. But anyway, we're out here for a completely different reason today. This is something I wanted to see. I knew was here, but did not come out here the other day to, well, that was a couple of months ago. I did not come out here a couple of months ago to see. I knew that we would be back out here to see this though. So today we're out here to see a grave that sits right around here somewhere in true grave searching fashion. I don't know where the actual grave is. It's always a bit of graveyard hide and seek when it comes to finding graves, but apparently it's right around here somewhere. A very famous grave of a very famous man. A lot of people come out here to see and pay their respects. A lot of people are a big fan of. I've seen many videos done on this. I'm definitely not the first person by a long shot to do a video on the grave we're out here to see. Many videos exist on this, but it's pretty awesome. And I wanted to come out here. I wanted to see this grave. I wanted to pay my respects. So we are out here today to find this grave. It's just, again, the question is, where is it? I don't know. It's in this area somewhere, but it's a beautiful area. Look at the lake over there. There's a really cool tombstone over here with a car on it. I'm just hoping maybe we stumble across the grave as we're walking over here, but I'm not seeing it. Anyway, look at this really awesome tombstone with like the Cadillac or whatever that is on it. Look at that. How cool is this? I love people who go all out for their headstones. I don't even know whose grave this is. Is it Meyer? Here, is it Ralph or Lucille Meyer, or is this somebody else's grave? I have no idea. Is there a car buried here? I don't know. There's no name for some bizarre reason on this headstone. That's pretty cool though. That's awesome. Anyway, that's not the reason why we're out here today though. That's a bonus feature right there. Again, we are out here to see a completely different grave, but again, I don't know where it is. All right, so while standing by the van doing some research, trying to figure out exactly where this grave was, a lady just pulled up, got out of her vehicle, walked over to a grave and took a photo. So I think this woman helped me figure out where the grave is. I'm going to assume this is where the grave is. Otherwise, she was taking a picture of just some random grave, but no, this is definitely it. We have found the grave today of the famous Bob Ross. Look at this. Look how many people have been out here to pay their respects and to just leave all kinds of crazy things. I feel like I should have brought something. I should have brought a paintbrush or a pen or something. People have brought a ceramic squirrel. There is a Bob Ross like paintbrush holder. I got a paintbrush, a feather that says somebody's name on it. There's a whole bunch of pennies out here. Somebody drew, look at that. Somebody painted a picture. A little kid painted a picture of Bob Ross and brought it out here. Of course, there's tons of flowers, some more happy little squirrels. Bob Ross, happy little mints are out here, seashells. I love all the squirrels. I'm really digging all the happy little squirrels. This says, in every failure, there's always opportunity. Again, somebody painted a little picture of Bob Ross. There's pens and paintbrushes. This says, you have been inspiration in our lives, given happiness, and I think it says joy, always in our hearts and minds. I'm not entirely sure what else that says, but that's awesome. There's a painting there. Somebody brought an actual paint set out here. That is so cool. The grave of Bob Ross, television artist, October 29th, 1942, July 4th, 1995. I have been wanting to come out here to see this just for such a long long time. This is cool. This is too awesome. I mean, it's a shame that he has passed away, of course. I loved watching Bob Ross on TV back in the day. I mean, I was a... allergies acting out here. I was an artist. I was a painter. I was very much into art in high school. I went to college for photography. Art's always been in my life. My father used to draw all the time. My grandmother was a big painter. Again, I was a big painter. So Bob Ross, even though I wouldn't say he was necessarily an inspiration for me or anything like that, and even though he didn't really paint in any kind of a style I really painted in or really, you know, had any necessarily interest in, I think a lot of people can say that even though maybe he wasn't your cup of tea when it comes to maybe his style, or maybe you weren't even a painter, you probably still watched this show. And that was the case for me. Even though I was very much into art and into painting, and painting's always been a part of my life, the paintings of Bob Ross never really spoke to me or anything like that. I never really took necessarily much inspiration from Bob Ross, but I always enjoyed watching his show. I enjoyed his calm, like, collective demeanor. I loved how chill he was. I loved his voice. Of course, he just had such that calming voice that just kind of like roped you in. And I loved watching him paint. It was amazing to see this canvas go from just white to this amazing, beautiful picture. And the way he did paint, again, it wasn't necessarily in a style I myself personally painted in, but just the way he would do it with his brush strokes and the way he would make those trees, and just like, you wouldn't expect that just like by tapping the way he did on the canvas, things would come out the way they came out. There's some air fresheners there as well. What is this? Bob, it doesn't work anymore. The rain's got to it. This is a Bob Ross like noisemaker thing. So I'm sure you'd hit it and probably say something about like, you know, happy little trees or happy little accidents or happy little squirrels, happy little something. Unfortunately, again, the rain has gotten to it. No longer works, but that is awesome. The grave of Bob Ross. Like I said, I had to get out here. I had to see this. I had to pay my respects to the man. I used to watch his show from one artist to another. I enjoyed watching his show, and it's really cool to come out here and to see this and to know that that he is buried right here. I keep ducking under the shade of this tree. It's very, very warm out today. Look at the amazing Spanish moss blowing in the wind. Did Bob Ross ever paint any depictions of Florida? I have no idea. Every time I would see him paint, it would always sort of like be a mountainous sort of landscape with the snow-peaked mountains with the evergreens and maybe a lake or something like that. But I don't think I've ever actually seen him paint Florida. I don't know. Comments down below if you've ever seen that from Bob Ross. I certainly haven't caught every single one of his episodes. So leave your comments down below. It would make sense if he did paint Florida, since this is where he was actually born and raised. Born in Daytona Beach, Florida, and raised in Orlando, Florida. Passed away there in Orlando as well, which makes sense as to why he's buried here, because we're only maybe, I don't know, 15 or so minutes away from downtown Orlando, Florida. It's like 5 or so miles in that direction. We are really, really close to Orlando right now. So again, makes sense why he's buried here. If you're from the area, if you're somewhat famous and from the area, this is probably the cemetery you're going to be buried in. In fact, there's a lot of famous people buried here. We will be back to the cemetery to visit other graves, but this is a beautiful, amazing cemetery. So very fitting that Bob Ross is buried here, and buried underneath this amazing tree here, again, with the Spanish moss. But I don't know if he ever actually painted any depictions of anything like this, any sort of Florida scenes. You guys leave your comments down below. I love the headstone too, with Bob Ross's likeness right there with his fro, and the way Bob Ross is written there with the Ross and then Bob in the R. That's really cool looking. Very awesome looking headstone. Very, very, just, I don't know, very artistic, I guess you could say. I don't know. I like it. It's pretty cool looking. It stands out. It pops. It's really, really cool. Again, just had to get out here. Had to see this grave. And I love the fact that so many other people have been out here as well, leaving things or tributes to Bob Ross. I love that kids have been out here who have been inspired by Bob Ross, who have painted little pictures of Bob Ross. That is so, so cool. I love the artist palette out here as well. That is neat. So very cool. So many people have been out here paying their respects, leaving their tributes. I feel like I should have left something. Maybe I should have brought a penny, at least a penny, to show my respects, but I did not bring anything. Paintbrush though, that would have been a good idea. I actually have some paintbrushes at home that I've used that I could have brought. Paintbrushes that I don't really need anymore. I feel like I should have brought one. I made a happy little mistake by not bringing a paintbrush to pay my respects to Bob Ross. But again, I wanted to come out here. I wanted to see this. I did want to pay my respects to a man who I've spent a lot of time watching on television. Pretty cool to be out here and seeing this. So some of you may have noticed there's actually an American flag on his grave here. That's not just because he was an American. That's not just because he was born in the United States of America. That's because he was actually a sergeant for the U.S. Air Force. I believe he was stationed in Alaska, which is where he first saw all his happy little trees and his snow-peaked mountains and stuff like that. So yes, believe it or not, a sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. So the man we all know as the guy with the very calming voice, the happy demeanor, the guy who painted his happy little trees and made his happy little accidents and painted his happy little squirrels. He was the man who was yelling at you, telling you to clean the toilets and scrub the floors and make your bed and get in line, and waking you up in the middle of the night to take a 10-mile run and whatnot. He was the sergeant who was screaming and yelling at everybody in the Air Force, which is actually part of why he ended up having his very calming demeanor, because from what I had read, he had said that after being a sergeant in the Air Force and screaming and yelling at everybody, because that's what he basically had to do. That was his job. It was his job to scream and yell at everybody. He said he did not want to raise his voice anymore. He did not want to raise his voice in anger. He did not want to scream and yell anymore. So he took on the persona of the very calming demeanor and that very calming voice we all know Bob Ross as having, though. But it's crazy to think that at one point that wasn't the case. Crazy to think that at one point he was screaming and yelling at all the recruits for the Air Force. It'd be crazy to hear stories. I should look them up. They probably exist. Stories about people who were in the Air Force under Sergeant Ross who were getting screamed and yelled at. I can't imagine all those years later popping onto to TV and seeing your old sergeant who once again was screaming at you, telling you to make your bed, to get up in the middle of the night and to take runs and do all that stuff, painting happy little trees and sounding very calm and relaxing and whatnot. That had to be definitely a different tone for a man you once knew as a completely different person. So that's why Bob Ross kind of took on that persona of again the very calming demeanor and whatnot. And he actually learned how to paint in the Air Force. He took some painting classes there where he learned how to paint, and that's where he kind of honed his painting skills in the Air Force. So we actually owe the Air Force for the Bob Ross we know. We owe what we loved and watched on television to his time spent in the Air Force. The fact that he had that calming demeanor was because of, again, him being a sergeant and no longer wanting to yell and scream at people. And we also owe the fact that he became the painter he was because of the Air Force. So pretty awesome. Really cool story behind Bob Ross. But again, weird to think that at one point he wasn't the very calming man that we came to love. He was screaming and yelling at people at one point. I can't picture Bob Ross yelling at anybody. All right, guys, so the lawn service is showing up. I'm thinking that's my cue to get out of here. But again, wanted to come out here, pay my respects to Bob Ross, born and raised here in Florida, in the Orlando area, born in Daytona Beach, Florida, passing away and raised in Orlando, died early from lymphoma. Actually, he was a heavy smoker throughout his life and had some health complications due to his smoking, which is why he sadly passed away. Interesting story also behind his like the rights to his name and his family and whatnot, and all there was a lot of when he passed away, there was a lot of controversy between like Bob Ross art supplies and then how, read up on it. I'm not going to get into the full story, but very interesting story about lawsuits and people fighting over who owns the rights to his name. And basically you can you can trace back some interesting history to how we ended up getting things like this. Happy little tree. Ooh, is there mince in there? I think just changing there. But interesting story to how we came to have things like happy little tree mints and ceramics and all this interesting Bob Ross stuff. Like, how did we get Bob Ross air fresheners and Bob Ross like noisemakers? How did things like that come to be? Interesting story, again, about people fighting over the rights to his name and how things like that ended up becoming an actual thing. I recommend reading up on that and reading into that. But we're not here to talk about fights amongst family and people right now, because Bob Ross would not want that. Again, he did not want people fighting. He did not want people raising their voice. He did not want people getting angry. He wanted happiness. He wanted to stay calm, cool, and relax. He wanted people to be happy, paint their happy little squirrels, their happy little trees, and sure, make some accidents, but make sure that they were happy little accidents that you could easily fix with a little mark of the paintbrush. You could easily fix your happy little mistakes. So, all right, guys, pretty awesome. Had to get out of here. Had to see this. Like I said, had to pay my respects to Bob Ross. But again, the lawn service is here. They're beginning to mow, and we wax. I'm thinking we should probably leave. Okay, guys, so with all that noise in the background, that is going to do it for the grave of Bob Ross here at the Woodlawn Cemetery, or Woodlawn Memorial Park here in Gotha, Florida. A very beautiful cemetery. Lots of cool things to see here. Again, the labyrinth is amazing. The mosaic is even more amazing. You can visit the grave of Bob Ross and some other famous people who we will get to in the future, but this is the first grave I knew I had to see. This is out of all the other famous people who are buried out here, the grave I knew I had to visit was the grave of Bob Ross. Had to see this, and clearly, due to the fact that a couple of minutes ago, a girl pulled up here. She got out literally just to take a picture. She wasn't filming. She wasn't vlogging. She literally pulled her car up, got out, walked over, took a couple of pictures, got back in her car, and drove away. So just the fact that, I mean, people are coming out here just to park for a couple of seconds to take a picture. I mean, that's so awesome. So many people have been out here to see this grave and to pay the respects. It's really cool that so many people do come out here to pay the respects. And so cool people leave all this stuff. I love all the stuff people leave on graves. Some people could call this, I don't want to say vandalism, but they could say this is littering. I get it, but I would never say that about doing something like this to somebody's grave. When I pass away, if people come out to my grave and leave DVDs and VHS tapes and Spice Girl toys and little Figment statues, I mean, that's gonna be awesome. I don't care. That'd be so cool. I do wonder though how often they clean this up. You can see this, like some of the paintbrushes and like the tins have rusted out pretty well. So I would assume maybe they would leave this stuff for a while. And this squirrel, I think he's been here for a while. I saw some photos online of the grave, and it looks like that squirrel has been here for quite some time. But so cool people do come out here. And so many people are coming out here all the time to pay their respects and to leave a little trinket behind, which again, I dropped the ball on. I did not. I made an accident. I don't know if it was a happy little accident, but I made an accident by not leaving a paintbrush, bringing a paintbrush to leave behind or something like that. Or maybe I could have painted a picture of Bob Ross and left that behind, but I did not. But all right, guys, again, that is going to do it from the Woodlawn Cemetery, Woodlawn Memorial Park here in Gotha, Florida, where they're doing some major lawn service at the moment. They're weed whacking the graves. I'm sure they're going to make their way over here pretty soon, so I should probably get out of here. But the grave of the TV artist, the legend, the amazing artist, and at one point, sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, Bob Ross, October 29th, 1942, July 4th, 1995. Florida legend. Like I said, born in Daytona Beach, Florida, and then died and was raised in Orlando, Florida. Pretty awesome to come out here and see this. All right, if you guys have been out here, leave your comments down below. If you've been out here to see it's so noisy now. If you guys have been out here to see the grave of Bob Ross, leave your comments down below. If you were inspired by Bob Ross, leave your comments down below, or maybe if you were just a big fan of Bob Ross, you watched his I want to hear your stories about Bob Ross. If you were a big fan of his TV series, if you used to watch it all the time, leave your comments down below. Let me know about you and your experience with Bob Ross or Bob Ross's grave. Maybe you met the man. Maybe you were in the Air Force. Maybe you're watching this and you were one of the recruits, and he was one of the people who were yelling at you all the time. Maybe you remember Bob Ross being a bit meaner than he was known for. I don't know. Leave your comments down below. But all right, guys, that's going to do it. So as always, thank you all so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check down below for links to Patreon. If you guys do become a patron, I will send you a postcard every single month from the road. Also check down below for a link to Spreadshirt, where you can grab yourself retro rest stop t-shirts. Also hit that join button and become a member of this channel. If you do that, you get early access. Look at that. You get early access to all of my videos. You can be the first to leave a comment. So all that stuff does help support the show and keeps the show going. So I really do appreciate it. And if you guys watch this video all the way until the very end, hashtag happy little noises. Because you know what? Power. You know, he always, everything, you know, happy little this, happy little accidents. We had a very similar motto. He's had happy little accidents. I had the power of positivity. So happy little noises. Because yes, it is noisy out here right now, but that's okay. I'm staying calm, cool, and collective, just like Bob Ross after he left the Air Force. So anyway, happy little noises. Leave that hashtag down below. But all right, guys, that's gonna do it. So like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you do hit that subscribe button or you are subscribed, then I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys. Bye. Hold on, wait a minute. Before I actually leave the grave of Bob Ross, there is one thing I think I can do. But quickly, I want to show you guys, if you're looking for the grave, it's here in section 0. Or what's more likely is it's section O, not section 0. Section O, here at the Woodlawn Cemetery. Find the section 0 sign. It's right next to a tree. It's not this tree. It's the tree right there. And then Bob Ross's grave is right there, kind of below the tree. So pretty easy to find once you know where you're looking. So section 0, tree, but underneath the other tree. But anyway, again, before I leave, there's one thing I think I can do, and yeah, sure enough, I can. I do have a penny. I'm gonna go leave my penny. I always like to leave a penny on a grave. It's a sign of remembering somebody, and I definitely remember Bob Ross. I remember growing up with Bob Ross. So I got my penny here. I'm gonna leave it right there. There we go. A penny in memory of Bob Ross. Pretty awesome to come out here and see this. All right, guys, that's gonna do it. Like I said, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. So noisy. All right, bye.